Welcome to Blinkers Off with your hosts, Jared Welch and Aaron Halterman.
Good afternoon. I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. It is Thursday, May 30th, the last Blinkers Off of May. What's up, man?
Yeah, it's crazy. This month has flown. I look and I'm like, shouldn't it be like Bluegrass weekend this weekend? You know, like
I know, and
feel
it's
like
making
2 months behind.
It's making it feel even worse. The fact that like today I was getting stuff ready for the week or for next weekend, like the Bible cover and stuff, and I'm like at Saratoga. It's making it feel like it's even further into the year than it really is.
Yeah, we were walking. Heather and I were walking today, and she goes, "This time next week we'll be getting ready to head to Saratoga." I was like, "That is just dumb. Like it's June. It's not Saratoga season." So.
I know it makes no
weird.
sense, but
No.
and it's almost like we're just gonna transition right into actually Saratoga at this point, because after this we're gonna be right into it.
Yeah, no, it is pretty crazy. Yeah, and I wish they were staying up there the whole time. That would be great. But yeah, it does just kind of feel like, yeah, Belmont at Saratoga is strange, and then we'll have that, and then in a couple weeks almost, and it's right back up there. So yeah, it's been a crazy year, and I think we're setting up for the biggest day of racing yet coming up next week. I think it's just going to be insane. I know we're going to talk about it, so I won't speak on it much more until we get to the segment, but this is setting up to be pretty dang awesome next week.
Yeah, I wanted to set up today's show not just to talk about. I mean, obviously we know that the main event is the Belmont Stakes next weekend, but most of you probably don't forget, but in case you did, like it's the Belmont Stakes. Unless there's a Triple Crown on the line, really, the Belmont Stakes is kind of like also running. You know what I mean? Like that card, top to bottom, and not just that card, but the 4 days of the festival are just insanely good. And you have what I believe is it's like everyone shoots for the Derby and all the races that kind of correlate with that Friday and Saturday. But then it's like, if that's not it, or if that was it, the next big one is this. And it's whether it be the turf, whether it be a sprint, whether it be the classic race, whatever, the Met Mile. I mean, it's all like we're going to see, Wide Barrio in the Met Mile amongst others. So you're getting it kind of across the board. The Belmont Stakes, I do think is going to be a good race this year, but it also feels like it's like, yeah, I mean, it's going to be one of the other ones because of how good the rest of these races are starting to shape up.
I can remember a couple of years since they started this, where you go in and you go, gosh, races, 4 through 10 are going to be great. Then they'll run the Belmont, Yeah. And look, this year, I don't think that's the case. I do think the Belmont itself is going to be amazing. But yeah, I mean, a lot of years you do kind of look at it and go, well, Belmont is what it is, but these other races are amazing. And like I said, it's kind of the prelude to the Breeders' Cup. Anymore, this is a huge weekend where the kind of the path starts, and then they kind of separate. They go to some to Del Mar, some to Saratoga. And they kind of get prepped up and going there, and then boom, we're right into the Breeders' Cup. So this is kind of your first look. And like I said, the big horses, a lot of them come back, and we have a lot of international horses. Maybe not a lot, but a few of the bigger international horses will start to kind of show up this weekend as well.
Yeah. See, it's very interesting, Bree. I didn't really thought of it that way.
Yep.
But that would be, I mean, obviously you can't count it, but the fact that the horse did run on Derby Day in the Pat Day Mile would be somewhat interesting, right? If he were to win the Belmont, I don't know. I really don't. If he wins the Belmont, I'm going to give him a lot of praise because I don't see it happening. This field looks good, but hey, if he runs like he did in the Preakness, he has every shot in the world.
I don't know if Bree, if you saw the video I did previewing the Belmont, but I actually I talked about that, and I talked about how crazy it would be to win the Pat Day, the Preakness, and the Belmont. I would imagine that's never been done. I would imagine maybe that's never been tried. But I don't know either one of those for certain, so I don't want to go too far, but I kind of mentioned this. This is only Dwayne Lucas would have this attempt, so to speak. So it would be incredible if he could do it. I mean, incredible. And I'm with you. I don't think he will win the Belmont, but look, he's a horse that's getting better. We don't know the field yet, so you don't really want to tie yourself down to something right now. But look, even if he gets second, third, fourth in the Belmont, it's still, I mean, what a run this horse has been on.
Yeah, and it would be like, hey, like, coach, why didn't you run him in the Derby? Well, it's like, didn't think he really wanted to go that far anyways. And then it's like, well, you won the Preakness and you won the Belmont. So it's like, that was the whole thing. Like, it's like, so it's just, what an interesting path this horse has. And like, listen, he's got a better chance of winning the Belmont than he does winning any race this summer, is my opinion. Like, because when Dwayne's got him right, these horses are right, and then they go off, and this is as good as anybody. It's like, then they go way off. And so if there's a time to do it, obviously this is it.
Yeah, I agree. And, we talk about Oxbow a lot, and look, with Oxbow, he came back and he ran a very good second in the Belmont Stakes, got beat by, I believe it was Palace Malice beat him, but Oxbow that day ran really, really well. And so maybe Seize the Great can kind of do the same. And look, I mean, the coach can talk all about, I don't know if he wants to distance or anything. Seize the Great didn't run in the Derby because he didn't qualify for the Derby.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask, how many points did he have, actually?
He had enough to sit like 22nd or 23rd, or maybe 23rd
close.
or 24th.
Okay, yeah, he was close. And it's like, if he wanted to get in, Dwayne would have ran him in like the Lexington or something, like that. Imagine that trip, going to Lexington, then going to the Derby, then going. I mean, it's like, I think he kind of conceded the fact that, like, hey, we're not going to the Derby. Let's just run on the Pat Day. And it's like, oh shit, now we're going to do that. So, I mean, listen, there's some storylines there. We'll see about any of the McPeaks that do or do not show up. We obviously have Sierra Leone. Kind of, I think, going to be. Do you think between Sierra Leone and Fierceness, because you have the fiercest factor of the Derby favorite? We'll get into this in a second, but just real quick, who do you think is going to be the favorite of the race, Sierra Leone or Fierceness?
I think Sierra Leone will be the favorite.
I kind of think that too. I just wondered if Fierceness was bad enough in the Derby to kind of back that off a little bit,
No, I still think it'll be Sierra Leone. I just feel like the way he ran, and I think a lot of people, they exited the Derby and they said, well, he probably should have won. And I think they'll really like him. And it's Chad Brown, it's Saratoga. That seems to fit together, like Chad Brown walking out of a courthouse fits together. So I think Sierra Leone's the one that they'll be favored.
Yeah. I guess in the Jeff Ruby, if he would have gotten a little bit, he finished third in the Jeff Ruby.
Yep.
Seize the Great did.
Yep.
So if he would have gotten or hell, if he would have picked up his feet in the bluegrass, how about that?
Yes. And that's yes.
I mean, that was the it. I mean, finished seventh, and I'm sure even to Lucas he was thought, well, shit, we're not going to go. I mean, we're not even trying at that point to get to the Derby, Yeah. And then he runs so well in the Pat Day, in typical Dwayne. Well, why not? We got a chance, so let's do it. I mean, if you got a live horse that's eligible for the race, he's going to run them every single time. So
if you have one that's not live that's eligible for the race, he's going to run it every single time. So
yeah, exactly.
It's famous quote: "You got to be in it to win it," and they don't just hand these big races out. And he's kind of made a living off that philosophy.
Well, this time next week, Halterman, we will be en route to Saratoga. So hopefully everybody that is tuning in, at least you guys, some of you will be there. I don't know who all is going out of our. Kevin, you're going, right?
God, it feels like a bunch.
Friday.
Yeah, it feels like a bunch of people are going to be there. So I think we'll meet a lot of people, and it's going to be something special. It's hard for me to even visualize it because Saratoga is always, you think about certain races, right? Being there at Saratoga, like, the Jim Dandy and the Travers and the Whitney and all these kind of things. And like, even like 4-Star Dave, all these Curlin Stakes, all these races. And then it's like on Friday, we're going to show up and they're running the Acorn. Like, that's weird. huh?
Yeah.
You know,
I
like
know.
the Belmont Stakes is going to be there. Weird.
I mean, I can safely say, I mean, you probably have, I know, because you go up there all the time, but I've never been to Saratoga in June. So
I haven't either.
you have never been? Wow, never.
No.
I guess there's no reason because you're like, well, hell, we're gonna be. I mean, I might as well wait another month, right?
Yeah, I've been there in the winter, and it's different for sure. I've been there in October, and I've been there in the spring actually, but I've never been in June. No, never.
Well, it gets pretty freaking hot in July, so hopefully in August, obviously. So hopefully, maybe it won't be too bad. But yeah, listen, guys, they are gonna. By the way, Kevin, you say 4 years. I mean, are we not invited?
I guess not. No.
Like that's. I mean, I thought you were stealing the deal.
Yeah.
Sealing the deal for our future fantasy team, but I guess not. Just for the groomsmen, that's fine.
It's awful.
That's fine. Well, listen, yeah, that's the least you could do for tying up all your groomsmen on. So I would probably not go.
I wouldn't go.
Yeah, I'd be like, dude, can't do it. Can't do it. But anyways, let's get into today's show because we're going to talk all about the Belmont Stakes as well as all of the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival next week at Saratoga. That's right. That's Belmont Stakes Racing Festival at Saratoga. The 4-day festival includes like 23 stakes worth over $10 million in purses. It's going to be nuts. And then there is some racing this weekend, kind of a little prelude to the racing is starting to get better. We will have major stakes racing coverage and picks later in rapid fire from Churchill Downs and Penn National. Let's go. One of the few times of the year, every year, that we actually do Penn National. So it's good to make an appearance.
Yep. Good for it to make the show. I always love these two races at Penn National. So
I'll say it's nothing for you to handicap Penn National, but
it's so weird. They just stick out like a sore thumb, though. It's like, that's weird. But
well, let's see. Let's go to the. We're just gonna kind of run through some of the, like, we don't have to go through every one of them, but we'll just kind of like, this is based off of the current probables, and just kind of go race by race, and what you think, and again, a lot of this is going to change, but we'll see if the website doesn't crash my computer while we do it as well.
I'll take over if it happens.
All right, guys, the racing festival, the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival kicks off next week at Saratoga. 4 days, insane racing across the board. The dudes will be there on Friday and Saturday, so if you're going to be there, make sure you hit us up. But we're going to take a look here, kind of just a race by race over those few days of racing at Saratoga. Some of at least the bigger ones. As you know, it's crazy to see that you have the Belmont Gold Cup at Saratoga Racecourse, but that's where we're at. You don't have a lot in that. It's Appleby looks like he's got Siskiny coming in. That's a probable. There's really not a lot from some of these other ones. So we'll kind of go through a few of these. You can see there on the screen. But the Acorn, we'll start off with the Acorn because this is going to be ran on the 7th, which I believe is Friday, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
on Friday. And guys, listen, this is going to be a hell of a race. Tarifa's in the race. You've got Candied. You've got Just FYI. You got Torpedo Anna. If she doesn't run in the Belmont, we'll see. But man, my goodness, this race, dude, is shaping up to be a hell of a race.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And do you take Torpedo Anna again at what should be a short price? You try to beat her with Just FYI or Candied, or just name anybody there. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I believe Torpedo Anna will be in this race. I kind of heard the report that if everything goes okay this weekend, Mystic Dan is going to actually be in the Belmont. And I don't think McPeak will run them against each other. So I think Torpedo Anna ends up here. And if she does, look, it's must see. It's I wish it was on Saturday. It used to be, and it probably deserves to be on Saturday. But we'll see it Friday, and it's going to be awesome.
What are you gonna do with this one? I mean, are you? Because obviously McPeak is going to be. It's going to be bet hard. Kevin thinks Tarifa won't run. She hasn't worked since 5/17. So we'll see what she ends up doing here. But the good sign that something might be up. But even if you get just FYI and Torpedo Anna in the race, listen, you and I mean, those two last time they faced both ran good races. We picked just FYI to win the Oaks.
Yep.
Thought, all things considered, like if you would have said that's the trip and the race we wanted from her, that we got it right. And she got smoked by Torpedo Anna. So how do you think? I mean, obviously it's early, but how would you kind of start to address this? I mean, because we know how we feel about taking McPeak at such low prices.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to make a decision. I don't know what really to do here just yet. Gonna have to kind of get those past performances and look at them next week. I'm tentative to take just FYI because you kind of look at it and go, well, how do you turn the corner? I thought everything went pretty well for her last time, and she ran well and got beat. I mean, how do you turn the tables on Torpedo Anna? It's hard to say, really hard to say. But look, I mean, we'll have to look at it when they come out. I really think, just FYI, ran a very, very good race. I think she will be tough in here. I think Candide will be tough in here. But boy, Torpedo Anna's going to have to come back to him a little bit. There's no doubt.
Yeah, Rodney, it's not a terrible idea. I mean, if you kind of believe like, hey, listen, these are just clearly the two best horses. We saw it already in the Oaks if they run the race. I think the biggest question, like just FYI, is kind of proven to be super consistent. It's just a matter of, I think if Torpedo Anna can run that race again, because I could see her doing, winning. If she runs a race, like forget it. Like I don't think they can beat her. But I mean, it's a totally McPeak thing to not run her race as well, and so that's the concern. But I kind of do agree with your logic. Like I do think you could probably hammer that opinion, because if you like Torpedo Anna and you don't want to play their short price, we'll play at the exacta, because I kind of think that's a pretty probable exacta.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think it's an option, but I would really need to look at it a little bit harder. I think Candide on that track at Saratoga, I'm not sure. We'll just have to kind of see how the race shapes up as well, who actually enters, and what the pace looks like.
Kevin says Ways and Means has been working. That's an interesting one. I don't know if I can. Ways and Means is going to be one of those horses that I'm going to have to be wrong on eventually, and just until I'm right, because I tried to talk myself into her in the Oaks and clearly wasn't ready, and just feels like a horse that does have talent, but I kind of feel like I'm going to be on the losing end of her before I'm right again. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't know how much I can keep playing her. If he takes her back and runs her in some lighter races, but if he throws her in this race, like they obviously think if you go from the Oaks, right, from off the layoff to the prep for the Oaks, and then to the Oaks, and then to this, I mean, they're throwing her in. Like, I just feel like eventually she is going to win one of these.
They need to cut her back in distance, I think. And I think,
I think you do that no matter what. You should. Maybe long term, maybe she can. But right now, I don't know why you keep running her at a mile and eighth.
Yeah, I just try to cut her back. I would point to the big 3-year-old sprint races for the fillies at Saratoga and try to work backwards from those if I was them. But look, I'm not them. So, I don't know what they'll do. But I mean, to me, you cut her back. Even those last two races, if they're run a little bit shorter distances, she might win them both, the ones she lost. So, yeah, I would cut her back.
We can go forward a little bit to a couple of them, the New York and the Just a Game. But listen, these are, look at the a couple internationals, English Rose showing up for either one of those options. But you also have Surprisingly for Todd Pletcher, Star Fortress for Sherry DeVoe. But yeah, you got to think that between obviously either Appleby or whoever, like we're going to see these the New York, the Just a Game. You're going to see obviously Chad Brown's going to have some as well. You're going to start to see some of these horses, some big time horses in these. I mean, these are grade 1 turf races at Saratoga.
Yeah, and they'll be full fields. I mean, this is kind of one of the deals where, some of these races on Friday, they're just not going to have a whole lot of probables up there yet. But look, I mean, the international horses, Charlie Appleby's sending over some big time turf horses. He hasn't been great as of late here in the United States. So that's kind of the negative to it. Although he did win last time out or last week, I should say, in the Pennine Ridge. So yeah, it's going to be it's going to probably be Chad Brown versus Appleby again. I mean, we've kind of seen this.
I mean, yeah, it's a matter of which, Appleby hasn't done at least recently, hasn't fared too well by bringing some of his horses over here in these turf races. So we'll see kind of what ends up coming over here. The Woody Stevens. Well, listen to this. Imagination. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Bob Baffert's got a couple, Prince of Monaco and Imagination in the race. But you also got Domestic Product. This is kind of the race, like, whether it be horses that were on the Derby Trail at one point or, horses that were cut back at some point during that trail. But, I mean, dude, across the board. I mean, look at that. Nutella Fella.
Yeah. Great.
I mean, remember that horse, everybody?
I hope that the Woody Stevens does come up pretty strong. It's always kind of a fun undercard race, and it does look good. Like say Bookham Dano does actually come here, that would be really cool to see him. And look, we kind of thought going in, we kind of looked at that Pat Day Mile and said, "Oh, it's not very good." Well, it produced a Preakness winner, and there's some Pat Day horses that are going to try here as well. So, look, it's going to be a very interesting race. You got some horses cutting back, like Imagination and Domestic Product as well. So, look, it's a great supporting race to the main event. It always is, and I don't know. It looks really tough to me.
It's interesting that. I don't know, that as bad as Imagination ran in the Preakness, that he was going to run him here.
It's weird.
It is weird. And Prince of Monaco, which obviously is a sprinter and could be dangerous, right, in this race for sure. I think I would probably lean towards him if you're talking about the Bafferts. Yeah, this is going to be a tough one. I can already tell you this is going to be a hard one to handicap because it kind of feels like you have some of the like a Prince of Monaco, even like a Nutella Fella who likes Saratoga, like all kind of coming in fresh and unknowingly what they're gonna do. And then a horse like Imagination and the Wine Steward, who even if they run, it's like, are they good enough? Domestic Product coming off the Kentucky Derby, which was not good. I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns. It's hard, just looking at the probables, the possibles anyways, it's hard to be like, yeah, that horse was aiming for this race. It was built for that. That's the tough part about the Woody Stevens. No horse, most of the time, now sometimes they are, but a lot of times no horse is really pointing to the Woody Stevens. It's kind of by default because like, well, we couldn't get the distance. We didn't, we ended up having to cut back and the Woody Stevens is kind of there for you.
Yeah, very few. One that comes to mind is Jack Christopher. We kind of knew, hey, Jack Christopher, he's going to run here. That type, yeah, But yeah, mostly you're right. You kind of just end up here because you couldn't go that far, and so this is kind of your plan B for a lot of horses.
Yeah. Which does that mean again? That doesn't mean that they're bad horses. It just means it's at this moment of their career, you're still trying to figure out what they are, and so it's hard to come into that off of like, well, they were really bad there, but maybe they needed to cut back, or maybe they needed the class relief, or whatever. So, but will be a great race. All right, with a lot of comments here, getting to let's before we get to the Belmont Stakes, let's go past it. Let's go to the Ogden Phipps, which is going to be obviously Idiomatic, going to be the strong favorite there. Tizzy in the Sky. You think anybody can take? I mean, we don't know the field yet, but Idiomatic kind of looks like if Brad does it right, like she should be kind of pave her way into the Breeders' Cup and a chance at, definitely at least, older mare of the year.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think Idiomatic looked better in her first race back than she looked in some of her races last year. She's got a win over this track. I mean, she'll be really, really tough in that race. And that could be one of the races you can go short in on Saturday. And you're going to need to go short, obviously, in some places. And this could be one. The other thing is, well, who exactly is supposed to show up and beat her?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just it. The field in itself is, or the crop in itself is not good this year. Mm-hmm. And obviously she came back and looked incredible last out. And so we'll see what I agree that she might be one of the singles of the card. All right, let's look at the Met Mile. Of course, this is the kind of like one of the main events really of the year, let alone the day. But it does have your Breeders' Cup winner, White Obario, coming back here. Saudi Crown is possible. Tumbarumba is probable. Hoist of Gold is probable. Blazing Sevens, Arabian Night, post time, all possible, national treasure for Baffert as well, probable, and charge it possible. I mean, this kind of the who's of these horses, but it starts with Wida Barrio. Do you kind of think he can? Obviously we know how great he was at Saratoga last year.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's going to be a very hard horse to kind of judge. Obviously, did not run well last time we saw him. Saudi Crown, pretty interesting horse at that mile distance there. So I think he's very live in this one. Arabian Night will not be there. So that's one we don't have to worry about. At least as of now, he's not coming. So I think the race is all about how does Wida Barrio come out of it? And then National Treasure and what he shows up as. I mean, we know that this is a very competitive race year after year, and this division right now is pretty darn competitive. On the top end, we've got a lot of top end horses right now. So I think Saudi Crown, Wida Barrio, National Treasure, those are the three. I think if National Treasure can get a similar trip that he got in the Pegasus, he may be the one to beat in this one. But again, Rodney just said it, where they draw is going to be important. They're going to come out of that chute, the new 1 mile chute. It's not so new now. It's been around a couple of years now, but that's another little interesting thing. So where they draw, who gets the lead, who gets what trip, it's really going to matter. Just kind of a long way of saying this is a tricky race.
Yeah, it's at the chute, which is like kind of that 1.5 turn type thing. It's a very odd Life is a Dream. It's kind of like it's really one main turn, but it's a little bit of a turn out of the gate too. So yeah, that'll be interesting for sure, and we'll see. Like, maybe you got to think between, those horses didn't run well on Saudi, but sometimes that happens, right? It doesn't necessarily dictate a horse like is falling off. It's hard to, I think it's as bad as Wida Barrio was that race. It's kind of easy to kind of forget as good as he was last year. And I mean, he was flawless really last year. And as far as the second half of the year, this race actually in particular, he was his last loss, and then he kind of just caught fire. It couldn't lose.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if a mile, I don't know. Sometimes you watch him run, he's like, yeah, a mile would be good. And then like you watch this race for him last year, of course, that was a totally different situation. He didn't run all that well at a mile. Maybe National Treasure, we've seen him at a mile be very, very tough. Maybe he's the one to beat here. This is a really, really interesting race.
I thought National Treasure ran pretty well, really, in the Saudi. I mean, it wasn't bad. Clearly not quite good enough that day, but definitely showed himself better than a few of these other ones. So we'll see. Obviously, that's going to be a hell of a race. I mean, that's I love that race. Let's see, the Manhattan, turf racing. I'm very busy. Joseph O'Brien has got El Rifa, Ohana Honor. You've got Program Trading, Nation's Pride. So obviously, you're seeing a lot of these Appleby horses going to show up over here, and no surprise there.
Yeah, Appleby versus Brown again in this one, most likely, and just try to make the decision there. Chad Brown, to me, really flexed his muscles, I thought, on Derby and Oaks Day. So he's tough. They're coming to his home track now, so he's going to be tough.
Let's see, the Suburban, Charge It and Karupi, Poker. Anything that's jumping out the Jiper, Motorious, Big Invasion, some of those horses. Appleby's got Mischief Magic. That'll be interesting to see there as well. Any thoughts on that one?
It'll be cool to see Casa Creed again. That'll be fun to kind of see him. He's kind of the mascot a little bit of of the NYRA turf circuit, so it'd be cool, and Saratoga for that matter. So that'll be great to see him.
All right, let's go back up here to, of course, the main race of the day, the Belmont Stakes. Here's a list of the probable/possibles: Mystic Dan, Dornick, Seize the Great, the Peta Anna, the Wine Steward, Tuscan Gold, Honor Marie, Protective, Batten Down, Mind Frame is back on the possibles, Antiquarian, Fierceness, and Sierra Leone. So, thoughts first, at least initial thoughts. Who do you think is going to run? Who do you think is not going to run that's on this list? And kind of across the board, who you kind of looking at here?
Well, Torpedo Anna, I don't think will run. I think you will see her in the Acorn. The Wine Steward, according to Dr. Miranda, is not going to run. She said from somebody close to the horse, they said that he is not going to run. So I have no reason to doubt that. And then Batten Down, they've announced he's going to the Ohio Derby, so he's not going to run either. So, yeah, I know, right? So there's 3 horses that are not going to run. It sounds to me, Jared, and this will be good news for you. According to Mike Rapoli, he said if they're doing well, Protective and Mindframe are going to run. He said it's a Belmont. Why would we not run? And I kind of understand that. So it sounds like they're going to run. Pletcher could really have this thing loaded up with entries here.
Well, yeah, that's amazing, by the way. And, honestly, I you knew this, but I had thought about putting a claim in for Batten Down just to have some horse, because I didn't think Mindframe would run. And then when just the way Mott was talking, you're just like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really like the way this is trending, that he's going to be aggressive and run here. So I backed out of it. But yeah, I mean, you can see that is what's happening here. And I really thought they were going to do that with Mindframe. It is interesting. What do you do? Let's talk kind of generally speaking. How do you handle Pletcher having like multiple horses in the race, and not just multiple horses, but like Mindframe looked like a absolute monster last out. Obviously, Fierceness needs no introduction, both good and bad. Antiquarian, Protected, whatever. Like the list go. Like, how do you even handle that? Like, how do you address that really with all those horses?
I think what jockey rides what horse will be a little bit of an answer there to who likes what. So I would keep an eye out there, because the bottom line is a lot of these horses are trained or owned, by the same guy. So he'll kind of get to pick and choose the jockeys, I would think. So that's your first kind of thing you got to do. And then look, I mean, you just kind of got to read the situation. As far as the running styles, and you can kind of figure out where they want these horses to be placed, and you go from there. But look, I kind of with Mike Rapoli. I mean, if I'm a guy that's from New York and they're running the Belmont at Saratoga, and I had horses that could run in it, I'd run every one that I could. So I don't mind that. I've always thought from the start, it was really weird that they weren't immediately after that race at Churchill Downs saying Mindframe's going to the Belmont. I guess Pletcher doesn't want to do that. So I don't know what to read about that as well. So, but anyway, I don't blame them. I think they should run every one they've got if they can get them in there.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I think everybody and anybody that watched that race thought, well, they're probably going. I mean, how are they not going to the Belmont from there? Like, not even that, but I was like, in my opinion, I was like, there's a Belmont winner,
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, we're not committing to that. And it's like, why, and then now we are, because of the owner wants to go there. And you're like, okay, well, what do you do with that? And then his big horse is so totally unreliable. So it makes it interesting, to say the least. Now, kind of like what you can see in the chat, and it's pretty clear, like, unless Seize the Gray is in and like for sure breaks and for sure goes like to the lead, I mean, with all the Pletchers in the race, it's Fierceness it's gonna be set up like they're gonna have that thing set up so Fierceness is not going to have. I mean, Sierra Leone's not going to go to the lead. There's not going to be any speed unless a Torpedo Anna or a Seize the Gray were to get in there and make this thing interesting. But it is shaping up a little bit to say, like, hey, we're going to add as many Pletchers as we can to get in the race and make sure we set this thing up perfectly for each and every, at least the ones that are serious contenders.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you're wrong about that. And I think if you got a horse like Protective, you might try to use him a little bit as a blocker. I do think he's one. But look, I mean, these other horses, well, Antiquarian, you could probably use him for a blocker as well. But I mean, Fierceness and Mindframe can win, I think. So I don't know. But look, here's the deal. There's going to be other speed in this race. I really don't see a world where he's going to be out totally by himself without running very fast. I think he might get the lead, but I think he'll have to go decently fast to do it, because Dornoch will run. Seize the Gray, why would he not go? So there's 2 right there. Then you have Fierceness. So is Fierceness going to do what Imagination did in the Preakness and sit off of it, or will he just take it to the front? So, to me, I mean, we saw him. He sat off in the Derby, and that's what happened. I would send him, and he's going to have to set a fast pace and hold on, I think.
Yeah, I think you just send him, and then you tell whoever's on mind frame, you say, sit right off of him, basically. And you guys just do your thing around the track, and hopefully, if you're Rapoli and Pletcher, one of them kicks on, right? That's the hope, or maybe both of them do.
Yep.
Because the deal is like he didn't do a lot of running in the race. We obviously mind frames lightly raced, and then you have horses like Mystic Dan, who's going to be going for his third race on the Triple Crown here, and then Caesar Gray, kind of similar. Dornick we haven't seen since the Derby, but I'd be a little surprised if he were to kind of have any guts late in the race. So it's like, kind of feels like it's gonna be up for it runs through Pletcher. It really does, unless Sierra Leone. Really, unless he's the wrench, right? He's the guy that if he can run a big race and run like he has, is he good enough to get by? That's the concern if you're backing him. Is he good? If you believe, unless you believe Todd Pillett, these horses are not very good. Fierceness isn't going to run. Mind frame's overrated. Antiquarian sucks or whatever. But he's going to have to get past the layers of Pletchers.
Yeah, I think he will have no problem doing that unless Fierceness runs huge, and then I think he'll have a big problem. That's kind of the way I look at it. I am not really worried about many others in here, except for Fierceness, because he's just that horse that just he can run a freak race and beat you and beat everybody. I've been going back and forth on him. Talking about Fierceness, I don't know as a handicapper. It's you really shouldn't stress about him, because it's just he's impossible to kind of predict or know, and you kind of just have to play him defensively and go on with it. That's really all you could do. I lean honestly more towards he's going to run about 8th in this race than he's going to win it. But at the same time, if I'm alive going into this last race of the sequence, I really don't want to watch him win by 6, and I'm not having him on a ticket. So my gut tells me he's more likely to run up the track, because here's the deal. If he truly is a heartless horse, which I don't know that that's a fact, honestly, but it looks at times, a heartless horse can't win a race like this. It's just not going to happen. And to me, he just has to prove that he's more than that. And I think there's a chance that he is, but at the end of the day, it's just, he just seems like every race he's in from now on, he's on my pick X ticket, because I know what he's capable of, but in no way, shape, or form am I going to rely on just him in any kind of bet for the rest of his career.
No, you absolutely cannot rely on him. But
no,
yeah, the concern is, well, okay, if you believe in the cycle, he's due to run huge, right? Because if that's the case, he runs a big one and a terrible one, every other race, and so he's due. I did see it somewhere in the chat. He does make you want, if he gets anywhere near Sierra Leone, he's not going to fight with that horse, because Sierra Leone has had bigger mills than Fierceness.
Yep.
This the size difference of these two horses is incredible, and I think honestly that is a lot of his issue. I'm no horse expert, so what do I know? But he's not a huge horse, and I do feel like sometimes when horses do get in close to him, and kind of, especially those, we saw in the Holy Bull, where it's just kind of he gets up close to him, and then it kind of and then he backs up, and so I do think there is something there. If you have that big, huge monster lugging in on you, Sierra Leone, I don't know how. He needs to be clear of that horse before any of that heavy duty running starts.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think, look, in a race like this, the only way you're clear, in my opinion, is if you've run very fast early to get clear, and then how much are you going to back up? Or are you going to back up becomes the big question. And I just really feel like this is such a pivotal race for him, right? Because if he goes out there and does another Derby or Holy Bull or Champagne, you really start to say, well, he's just not the type of horse that's going to be able to win a race like this. If we can get him in like a 7-horse Pennsylvania Derby, sure, maybe he can go win that. I just threw that out there. Who knows what that race will look like by September? But that's the kind of thing. Like, yeah, we get him in the Florida Derby where he's running against nobodies, he's going to win. We get him in the Breeders' Cup where he kicked well clear of everybody. Yeah, sure, he's going to win. But when he has any kind of competition of any substance, he loses the race.
I do want to. This is a good point, and at least something worth talking about. If Rapoli had any confidence in fierceness, why would he? Why wouldn't he be like? Why is he running 20 other horses in the race? Do you think it's honestly he? We talked about this post Breeders' Cup, and obviously they really don't know what he is going to do every time. And so do you think it's just like, hey, kind of like we're saying, kind of like you're saying, where it's like, listen, I've got to play him on my win tickets. I have to, but I also am not going to rely on him to get the job done and everything. And that's kind of, do you think in some regards, that's kind of what Rapoli's thinking from an owner's perspective? Like, hey, like he definitely should win, but I'm also going to have 3 other ones in the race because I don't trust him.
Yeah, I think there is something to say about that. And I think we know firsthand they don't have a clue why he doesn't do what he does every time and why he sucks one time and is bad the next. And we know for a fact they entered 2 in the Breeders' Cup because they were like, we have no idea what he will do. We'll throw this other one in here, so have 2. So I don't really think I think to Kevin's point, I think logically what you're saying makes sense, but I don't really think it's anything more than that. Just I have this horse. We don't know. I will totally waste an entry or 2 if he runs fantastic. And if he runs horrible, at least I've got a couple of shots at it. And again, guys, you also have to go back. This is the race he wants to talk about. Rapoli, the race he wants to win almost as much, if not more than any of them. And if he's got horses that are halfway interesting, he's going to run them, or he's at least going to want to run them. So I don't think, Rapoli entered 3, that means fierceness is going to suck. I don't think it's that simple. I think it's more, there's a 50-50 shot this horse is going to suck, so we might as well throw some other ones in there.
Well, yeah, I mean, even like you go back and, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit better of an example, but like, wasn't it last year, Mo Donegal and Nest?
Yeah.
That was last year, right? Yeah. I mean,
2 years ago. 2 years ago.
Who won last year? Who went,
no, Archangelo's last year.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like he just like, hey, we're gonna run them, and they ran 1 too,
Yeah.
So it's like if he's got a horse that can do it or can qualify, is a decent runner.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's gonna do it, and so it does create a little bit of a headache, I guess. I personally love Mind Frame, so I think if they do run him here, I'll probably end up playing him in some way, but. I don't know. I don't know what to do with I just don't know what to do with fierceness. I don't think I can play him anymore. I think I use him on top of anything, and past that, I don't even think about him. I don't handicap him. I don't look at him. I don't, because it's just there's no point, right? He's either going to do it or he's not.
Well, I think going into the Derby, and I actually talked to John about this. Going into the Derby, we had an ideal setup in mind, and we like his connections. To be honest, we kind of had we think we've got figured out what causes his problem, and we had this ideal setup in our mind. In the ideal setup that not only we had in our minds, but the connections had in their minds, it was all playing out. Everything was great. Everything was perfect. And listen, maybe he doesn't win, but he had every right to fire this massive race that he is capable of running. When that didn't happen, that's when I was like, yeah, it's not okay. He got bumped around and that's causing it. No, he's not. There's something off with him. He's not right. And I think anytime you see that ideal setup, you're just like, well, he didn't do it. So what really can we do now? How can you really have that confidence? And John White was saying it was so fun for him, at least, to go back and watch us as we were watching the Kentucky Derby. He said, because I was kind of comparing what I was thinking to what you guys were saying, and it was the same. He said, I was watching Forever Young. He gets eliminated. This is terrible. I scan up. I look. It's like, well, Fiercest is getting that trip that's gonna make him a winner in this race. And he said, I'm watching you guys, and you guys are not overconfident because it's a horse race, but you can see it in your eyes of you feel like he's getting ready to run this huge race. And so anytime you bet a horse, things go perfectly in your mind, and then they still don't fire. That's when the confidence starts to get totally lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, listen, you're right. And that was, again, it's easy to go back. And by the way, let's not forget, and I'll just put that out there, like Fiercest, well, he's had a couple of really amazing races, but his debut was at Saratoga.
Mm-hmm.
We were there. We saw it. Like, I mean, so he does have that factor, loves Saratoga. But I really don't think that was a factor. I just think he just is that kind of horse. But yeah, I mean, he had, so like the race after the Champagne, it was a sloppy mess. Okay, there's your excuse. I'm not saying that was the reason, but there's your excuse. So then he wins the Breeders' Cup, has the layoff, has a terrible outing. There's your excuse. He was off the bench. Next race out, it's the Florida Derby. He romps, boom, he's back. Okay, no problem. We got him figured out, like you said. And then the Derby unfolds, and it unfolds really, other than a little hop at the start. But I really don't think you can blame that at all.
No.
It's perfect. And there was no, I mean, yeah, there's 19 other horses. I guess that's your excuse, but there was no bad trip. There was no, he got nailed. He got cut off. Like, listen, like you guys saw us leading up to the race. Like we laid out, like Halterman said, the perfect trip, and he got it. I thought he was ready to roll, and he just didn't. So I think that's, now it's like, okay, I don't have him. I don't know what he is. I don't have him figured out. I don't know why he's not running these races, and sometimes he does.
I wish I could. I wish I knew, but it could be as simple as exactly what you see on the form: big race, terrible race. He can't put two back to back, together. I mean, it could be. Also, I saw a comment. It was a long time ago. Somebody said that the clockers are saying he's not working very good. I think that's a great sign, because every time that horse works well, he sucks. And every time we hear he's awful, he doesn't feel the same, he runs up the screen. So I don't know. And I'm not, that's not even me like saying what the clockers do is wrong, because it's not. It's just that is literally what we've heard. I remember when he was even back as a 2-year-old, he was training up to the Champagne, and they were like, he's going to win by like 12. Like, he ran so good on debut at Saratoga, which he did. And it's like, he's so much better now than he was for that debut race. And he was nowhere to be seen. And they're leading up to the Breeders' Cup, they said, there's no telling what he'll do. He's been awful since that race. And he romped. I don't know what you do with this information, but I'm just telling you the track record. And look, we've been close to this horse. We've known a lot of, stuff that hasn't been published about this horse. Not that anything bad, but just like his work patterns and how he's doing overall, stuff like that. And it's an enigma. It's just a really, really, when they think he's going to fire, he does not fire. And when they think he's done, he fires a huge race. That's what happens.
Yeah. Or like, I don't even know he's going to be in the race. So I guess he ends up in the race, and then he wins. And you're like, what?
Yep. They literally were telling us he's done. Like, we don't know what's the matter with him leading up to the Florida Derby. Literally, that is a quote, folks. And
yeah,
there it was.
And I think due to like what we saw last year with Forte, you kept wondering, right? Like, oh, like when is this going to be?
Yeah.
When's this going to be the Forte of this year, And I don't know.
Well, I kind of pressed our sources, like, is he hurt? Like, is there something physically wrong? And they're like, I swear to you, there's nothing wrong. And there's no reason to lie. They've told us about horses that might have little issues before. Never has this horse, at least been told to us, has had any problem ever.
Well, clearly
he's got to have something, but
I don't even know if it could be something so minor, that's not really a bigger, it obviously is something fairly minor because they keep running them, but
right.
It's got to be something little that's like turning the horses, like he just stops, he's got, So maybe you're right. Maybe it's not that he doesn't have guts, but as soon as that, whatever it is, starts bugging him or whatever, he just ends it. He's not doing it. And so, he's as all nothing type of horse that's ever existed, I think. Yep. So you don't have to waste that's the one positive. You don't have to waste $1 on playing him anywhere underneath. You play him on top, or you completely leave him off and you don't think twice about it,
Yep.
And honestly, like Halterman said, you don't have, honestly, I think we're at a point with him that you don't even have to handicap him in the race. You don't have to say, well, if he does this or you just say, you know what, boom. Unless you just are completely against them, you don't want to mess with it. You play a ticket with him on top. You play your pick 4 or whatever with him included. Past that, you don't think about him again. That's
what I'll be doing.
That's as simple as it goes. Next, okay, I guess I'll put you on the spot just as a preliminary pick, guys. But who you kind of leaning towards right now? We will obviously be live next week before we head to Saratoga for the Belmont Stakes, and we'll give our official picks. But obviously, the betting Bible as well is we're working on that right now. That'll be available hopefully by tomorrow. At least the preliminary will be, but definitely by early next week. So, who's your pick right now?
Yeah, I think right now Sierra Leone is who I'm leaning towards. I think he's a horse that I kind of wish I would have picked in the Kentucky Derby, honestly. And kind of glad I didn't at the same time, because that would have been just an excruciating loss. But I think Sierra Leone, to me, he's the horse to beat.
Yeah, I kind of feel like little bit Mo Donegal-ish, where it's like, and I mean, he ran better than Mo Donegal, frankly, in the Derby. But like where he's like, okay, the Derby or the Belmont will be just perfect for him, and I just think he is built for that kind of race. And so I think he'll run well. Sierra Leone, ever since I knew that was kind of where they were pointing, I've been ready for him. So I'm worried a little bit about the Pletcher quartet or whoever the hell ends up in the race. I do think they're definitely contenders. But Sierra Leone, man, you just can't really quite go wrong with him as far as he's consistent. So that's my preliminary pick. We'll be live, and we'll tune in next week for our official Belmont Stakes, as well as the undercard picks for the Belmont Racing Festival. Yeah, it is an upgrade, Jockey.
I think
big time.
Dennis and I were talking. Dennis Trusty and I were talking. He said, on riding ability, I think they're about equal. And I was like, I don't really agree with that. But the one thing that, look, according to Chad Brown, he did not, talking about Sierra Leone, did not do what Chad Brown told him to do. That's number one. Okay. So again, remember, as I say all this, this horse lost by a nose in the Kentucky Derby. Jockey didn't do what he was telling him to do. Jockey, instead of riding his horse, he's playing grab ass with the horse next to him down the stretch, and loses by a nose, and was leaning in on the horse the whole time. He also kind of told him some things to do around the turn that he did not do. I don't care if Tyler Gaffalione is like the best rider in the world. You deserve to be fired off of him, and that's all there is to it. And at the end of the day, if you lose that race by 6 lengths, it's like whatever. But when you lose by a nose and all these things happen, whether it's ultimately your fault or not, you probably deserve to be fired. And I like Tyler Gaffalione, but he doesn't deserve to keep that mount after that race. The biggest thing, and Chad Brown said, the horse lugs in. So what I told him is, make sure you've got room where you can hit him left-handed when he starts to lug in. He didn't do that. And to me right there, you're fired. Even if you win, I'd be so pissed at you. It'd be unbelievable. But anyway.
You left enough room to grab the jockey next to you. So
Crazy.
Like, I mean, just from a pure look standpoint, you gotta replace him after that one. You just have to.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a hater on him at all, but and I definitely think it's a pro to have a guy like Pratt aboard. Listen, whenever I saw that, I'm like, he'll get the best out of that horse, no doubt.
Well, it's no different to me of if we hire somebody to do a job and they don't do what we tell them to do, well, you're fired. It's just that simple. Like it's me. It's just like he told him a detailed list of shit, and he said it in the DRF. And Chad Brown, to his credit, said, look, He did a tremendous job up till the Derby on this horse. I owe him a lot. He did great. But here are the things that I laid out for him to do, and he didn't do them. Well, it's the biggest race in the world, folks, or at least this country. So too bad, so sad. It's not a tough business. I disagree. If he does everything the guy tells him to do and he gets fired, it's a tough business. If he doesn't do shit that the guy tells him to do, well, you're fired. Pretty simple.
And on top of that, like you said, he lost by nose.
Exactly.
It's like that because and Chad Brown's looking for his first win. He's hot. I don't blame him whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have we? I don't know that we've ever had like a really angry meeting before.
No.
I mean, we've been angry for sure at other people, but never like. I don't know. We handle our stuff pretty. I don't know. We're like we kind of just cut it. We don't.
Yeah.
We don't really like get super angry. We just like, yep, you're done.
Yeah.
We're moving on. So.
Yep.
All right, let's do some rapid fire, guys. We're gonna do a couple of Penn National. We're gonna go to Churchill Downs. Time for rapid fire presented by Twin Spires. That's right, Magic. Turn your headphones off. Twin Spires. Go enter promo code DUDES DUDES for that up to $200 sign up bonus. Again, promo code DUDES. You get $200. If up to $200 if you sign up using our promo code or just click any of the links on the website at racingdudes.com. Again, they have promotions all year long, but especially for this Triple Crown trail. So promo code dudes DUDES at twinspires.com. All right, let's go to Penn National. One of the few times every year we go to Penn National for race number 5 on Friday. That's right, Friday's card, Friday evening, Penn Oaks. Race 5, 150K for going 1 mile on the turf for fillies, 3-year-olds. Large field of 12. Lines up here, 7-2 on the 10. Pounce for Cassie. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I'm going to go and roll back with Pounce here. I'm going to give him another shot after just not a great performance at Keeneland in the Appalachian. And we were there, and it was like, yeah, that wasn't great from this horse. Did not do much running there, but I think he's better than that. Or I think she's better than that, I should say. I think there's a ton of pace this time, and I think she'll be able to kind of get a trip similar to 2 races back when she won the Here Comes the Bride at Gulfstream Park. So I'm going to go right back to number 10, Pounce in this spot. I'm going to go pretty deep, though. I think this is a race where there's a lot of horses you can use.
Yeah, one of those horses that I'm going to use on top here that I do think is in here with a shot at a price is the number 4, Nicest Pie at 8-1 for Kelsey Danner. Listen, this is a horse that had been running at Turfway on the synthetic and running well, but only going to running the 6 furlong, 6.5, even went 5.5 last out on the turf. But this is a horse that just, to me, when you look on paper, like screams like get this horse more distance, get this horse, further to go. Now you're going in the mile. And again, this, switched the turf last time out, ran well, but again, kind of felt like needed a lot more than 5.5 furlongs. She's going to get it here. So again, like you're kind of taking into an account. Listen, I look at this field, say, you know what? I agree with Halterman. I think Pounce is someone I'll play, but you got options here, and I think the 4 Nice as Pie, if this horse can continue to improve, going a little bit longer, and obviously improve it one more time on the turf, I think she'll be tough, especially at a price. So she'll be running late. So give me the 4 Nice as Pie. All right. Let's go to the next one, Halterman, race number 6, the Penn Mile Stakes, Grade 3, with 400K going 1 mile on the turf for 3-year-olds. Field of 10 lines up here all the way to the outside. You're 3-1. Soft favorite, Tricari at 3-1 for Motion. You and I never get Motion right. Ever. Like I feel like it's no matter if I pick him as a favorite, if you pick him as a favorite, I feel like we have the same conversation every time. So are we going to have this conversation on Friday night?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I have the utmost respect for Graham Motion. I think he's a great trainer. I just never pick his horses right. When I pick against him, they win. And when I pick him, they lose. So, no, I didn't pick him here, so you better single the 10 because I went with number 4, First World War. Another Keeneland bounce back horse. Another horse that did not run all that well at Keeneland last time out in a race I thought he would run much better in. But now we're shortening back up to a mile here. I think that'll be okay for him. And look, I do think he will show up and run a big race. You look at his other races past the Transylvania, they've been very good. I should say before the Transylvania, they've been very good. So look, I think he's going to show up and run really well. Oddly enough, he's either won or finished second in all of his races, except for the 2 races at Keeneland where he got 4th and 9th. Yeah. So maybe it's just a Keeneland thing. Maybe he doesn't like that surface. I think he bounces back. So give me number 4, First World War.
Yeah, DeTore getting the mount there, which is kind of, he's got several mounts there on Friday. I thought about that one for a while. I ended up going with the 2, Good Lord Lori. This is a horse that has not lost. Debuted last summer at Saratoga, did well, looked good, came back in April at Aqueduct in the Woodhaven, won that as well with Pratt aboard. Pratt stays put. This is a horse that, obviously can win at this distance as we've seen it. I feel like it's just a kind of a quality horse. Now, George Weaver trained. Me and Halterman were talking. We believe this is the assistant of some sort due to the suspension. So I don't really view that as like a negative, as the horse is, got moved to. I think it's just because of the circumstances. So I expect the horse is firing off crazy numbers as far as workouts go, near back-to-back bullets. Give me the 2, Good Lord Lori at 9-2. Let me let's switch on over. Let's switch on over to Churchill Downs. Thoughts on the Churchill Downs card overall, Halterman? As I load this up.
Yeah, I think this is one you just got to play this weekend. I think this Saturday Churchill Downs card is the highest quality. We open up June as well, first weekend in June, or first Saturday in June, I should say. So kind of a lot of fun there to open up with such a great race card. It's going to be awesome. So many stakes races and a lot of big time horses running, especially for the Belmont, and everything goes on with that next week. I was really impressed with what they drew here at Churchill.
Yeah, I'm with you. I felt like this was kind of a nice little precursor to what we're going to see. Last week definitely was rough. You kind of get working our way back into some solid racing. Obviously, next weekend will be amazing. So let's go to race 8 at Churchill on Saturday now. The Shawnee Stakes Grade 3. We're 275K going 1/16 miles. For fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up, field of 9. Lines up here, Halterman 2-1 on Jazera. How do you say that? I always forget.
Zagara. Yeah.
Zagara. And then listen, Skyla, right? Skyla. And come on, I need an award for this. 5-2. Who are you going between that? And then I guess I'll throw in Wet Paint. You're not picking Wet Paint though, right?
Yeah, I didn't really want to pick Wet Paint. I went with the 7, Skyla on top here. I think this horse last time out showed you who she was. I thought that was a tremendous race right here at Churchill Downs in an allowance race. At third start off the layoff there, won by 7. Comes back here to a very logical spot. Tougher spot for sure. But give me the 7. I think she's going to be really tough.
I'm with you. You said it there. I think this horse is kind of a monster, really. Like you kind of mentioned earlier with your last pick, just didn't run well at Keeneland. Maybe didn't like the surface that day or whatever. But I mean, past that, this horse has never, really got second to Best Dream at Gulfstream Park and ran a big race. Just got beat that day. But I mean, other than that, this horse has just absolutely demolished fields. Belmont, Juddmont, Tappet horse. I mean, obviously there has been lots of big expectations for this one. I think she rolls home here. 2 for 2 at Churchill Downs. I think she's going to run and be hard to beat. So give me the 7, Skyla. All right, let's go to race number 9, the next race up. This is, of course, the Regret Stakes, Grade 3, 275K, going a mile and 8. On the turf for fillies, 3-year-olds, field of 10, lines up here, 5-2 on Buku, a horse that I've made money on, did not bet last time out. Are you going to go back to her here? Or you are going to regret that decision See what I did there and pick someone else.
I'm going to go number 1, Way to Be Marie. I thought this horse last time out over this turf course was fantastic. Thought ran very, very well in that last race. So I'm going to go number 1, Way to Be Marie. Rob Atras with a good one here. I think she will be tough. I don't mind Buku, though. I think that's a horse. Obviously, it might be between the 1 and the 6 here. I think they both look pretty good. But I'm going to go Way to Be Marie.
Way to be, yeah. The numbers are pretty standout on the one. I thought. Having said that, I do like a horse coming into this race, and feels like the horse is getting a little bit better each and every start. And that is a number 4, Dancing in Dixie for Mark Cassidy, Jose Ortiz, back aboard here. You know, really since the beginning of the year, this horse has kind of just slowly progressed each and every race. Now, again, hasn't won, and hasn't won in quite some time, but it's just ran kind of her race each and every time. Just, finished third, all very close races. Got beat by horses that are actually in this race, horses that came back to win. I mean, they're all quality losses, but at some point she's got to kind of break through and get there. I'm hoping that she continues that trend up, where some of these horses have started to kind of even go more even. And, you're getting a little bit longer distance, going a mile and 1/8 now for her for the first time. Been running a mile 16th mile races. Maybe that little extra distance will be enough for her. I'd like a little bit more than 7-2, if I'm being honest, but we're hoping that we get all of that here. So give me the 4, Dancing in Dixie. All right, let's see if he actually runs this time. Halterman, race number 10, the Blame Stakes, grade 3. We're 275K, going a mile and 1/8. For 4-year-olds and up, another big field here. A field of 11 lines up here, and 5-2 on Highland Falls, 9-2 on the Work On Campaign, 4-1 on Dreamlike, 6-1 on Cagliostro. But listen, 3-1 on Tapit Trice. Our boy Pratt aboard. Do you have the stones, Halterman, to pick Tapit Trice here?
I mean, no. No.
Quick question. All your money that you have, every bit that you own on the line, and in like different races, but like, would you rather do it on Tapit Trice or Fierceness?
Probably Fierceness.
Because at least it exists, right? At least that huge race is out there. Tapit Trice, he's gonna lug his ass home one way or another. Okay, carry on.
But one thing I'll tell you is we probably shouldn't hate Tapit Trice as much as Fierceness. He was Tapit Trice was 7th in the Kentucky Derby. Fierceness was 17th. So that's 10 spots better. Look, you want to talk about Tapit Trice for a second? I mean, this is the easiest race he's been in quite a long time. And, last year he was able to win a grade 3 race. He won the Tampa Bay Derby, and he also won a grade 1 Bluegrass last year. So big time class relief, but we'll see. I don't think it's a great sign that Tapit Trice is here. Usually Pletcher's kind of B horses will run at Churchill Downs during this time of year, non-Derby time of year. So I don't know. That's a great sign that he's here. Gets Pratt aboard. I guess that's okay. But I went number 2, Highland Falls on top. This is another horse taking a drop down in class, but he also has been running recently. That's the other thing with Tapit Trice. We have not seen him since the Travers, so long layoff as well. Where Highland Falls, he's in form. He is, he did lose a couple stakes races, but it was against tougher horses. So I think he's in form, taking that drop in class for a solid trainer, sort of a solid jockey. So I'm going to go number 2, Highland Falls on top.
Yeah, this just screams like, for Tapit Trice, it just screams like runs well-ish, just kind of lugs up there for second or third, never really is a true contender necessarily. Long layoff. Obviously, you can't think that they had this planned to have him off this long, so, they probably, being a Tapit, I'm sure he's, we know, right? He's a funky horse, like give him time to develop and all that, and obviously save him for a summer campaign. I'm sure that's the goal, but yeah, I think this one here, I'm okay with letting him beat me if that's the case, because I've spent too much money on him.
Yeah,
on the nose on the other side. I'm with you. You kind of said it all. I like the 2 Highland Falls here as well. Just kind of, I think there's going to sit a little bit better trip. than a few of these other ones that I also liked a little bit. Highland Falls ran a really big race, I thought, last time out in the Oakland Handicap. Obviously, Brad thought well enough of him to send him out to the big cap standing handicap back in March. Finished fourth that day, but still, like, was a horse that he sent out there. So Godolphin, Curlin, I mean, you name it. I think this is a horse that's going to have a say in a lot of these races this summer. So give me the 2 Highland Falls to beat the legendary Tapatrice.
There was a question asking why he scratched out of that race on the Alysheba on Oaks Day.
Yeah.
It seems like they told us, and I didn't care enough to remember it.
Yeah, I was just sitting there thinking that too. Actually, I was thinking that earlier. I was like, why was it they scratched? I remember hearing it, but I'm with you. I was like, I hate that horse anyway. So
yeah,
I do remember.
I can't remember why. Sorry, they did tell us, but
I do remember him saying that that he was like he had turned the corner. I remember that phrase.
Of course.
I remember that phrase, and honestly, it was kind of like the whole fierceness talk earlier, where it's like, okay, well, I'm glad I didn't use him, because at that time he was running, so I was like, I'm glad I didn't use him. So
yeah,
I don't really remember exactly why they did, but maybe the foot issue, wet track, he sucks. I don't know, whatever, but any of the cases, but I still feel comfortable. He's one of those, like, the horses, like, to the utmost degree that I'm just fine waiting on the sidelines until he looks like the horse I thought he was. I'll admit it. I thought he was last year. So wait and see approach definitely for Tapatrice. All right, guys, that's all the time we have. Check us out at racingdudes.com for our free picks and our premium selections on our products page. Click the Get Racing Dudes Premium button at the menu at racingdudes.com to learn more. Remember, go check out the Best Bets page as well as our products page. We'll have some updates coming to that page next week, as well as the Betting Bible should be available hopefully by tomorrow, maybe by Monday. The Betting Bible will feature the entire Saturday card at Belmont, or I guess at Saratoga for Belmont Belmont Stakes Day. So make sure you go get your hands on that. We updated kind of refreshed the look of that for the Preakness, had a lot of success, and gave everybody a lot more to work with than that. So be tuned, or make sure you look for that in the next couple of days. We're on Twitter at Racing_Dudes, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can find all episodes of Blinkers Off by visiting our podcast page at the website. Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all the places you like to listen to or watch, we are on there. Heads up, the Magic Mike Show will be live here in about 40 minutes. So stay tuned for that. Churchill Downs Pick 5. Magic's been in the chat here off and on, so look for him. Magic, get ready. Get your run in, it sounds like. And then, he's got to get the endorphins going before the show, right?
Yes.
And then Dudes Who Bet will be on after that, correct?
Yeah, Dudes Who Bet's going to come on at 5:00 Central Time. We are doing something a little scary. We're going to talk about the NBA, NHL playoffs, and then we're going to do an open forum. And we are legally contracted to answer any question that's asked. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, that's enough for me to log in. I know that much. So
yeah. So it's
not for you, by the way. No offense, but I got my questions geared up for somebody else.
Yeah, he's got to answer legally.
Oh, baby, you guys want to tune in for that? So what inspired that idea? That sounds like a bold take.
Nothing to talk about. So
yeah. Is your dad going to this Saratoga?
No. No. Honestly and truly, and maybe this is one of the questions I'll ask him. I think he's afraid to fly, honestly.
Yeah. My dad's that way too. So
I
think it's an older thing.
I think a lot of older people are. I know the last time he flew, everything went fine, but he was not happy. So I don't know. I think that's what it is.
So he's a little reluctant, huh?
Yes. Yeah. Because I've always kind of told him, you can go to Saratoga. We can go to Lake Placid, not this trip, obviously, but a trip up there. You need to see these things. And he doesn't seem interested.
Papa Dude needs one of those chewable.
Yeah.
know.
I don't know. It's surprising to me that he won't fly, but he will not do it. So
All right, guys, we will be live again. I don't know when. Probably Wednesday next
I would
week.
say,
Honestly,
yeah.
we'll be live. We're leaving for Saratoga on Thursday. So look for the show on Blinkers Off on Wednesday, where we'll go through and give our picks for the Belmont Stakes. Anything last lasting impressions you want to leave before we see them all next week for Blinkers Off?
Yeah, I think there are some really, really fun cards this weekend. So you can enjoy, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think there's going to be money to be made in those tracks running on this weekend, and then Monday starts. We'll start Monday with the draw, and we will be live for the Belmont draw, and then you get looking forward to one of the best weekends of the year. So. This is going to be a good weekend. I think Churchill is going to be really fun on Saturday.
Yeah, and just hold your breath because we say this all, about the Derby and the preps and stuff every year, but now it's like you get to this point, especially now that it's at Saratoga, which is obviously the summer racing. Dude. I mean, August, the Travers will be here tomorrow. It feels like that's as fast as the summer will go with all the racing and obviously, it will be fun to see some of these 3-year-olds because obviously, another year, right, where we have these 3-year-old division where it just feels like it's anybody's guess on who wants it. And
hey, let's speculate for a second. Let's say it's November, the Sunday after the Breeders' Cup in November. Who's the number 1 3-year-old
after the Breeders' Cup?
Yeah, after it's all said and done.
Oh man. Number 1 3-year-old would be give me. I don't think it's. I'm gonna say it's. Man, Muth maybe.
I think if they could get him healthy.
If it needs to be, I was thinking one of the Baffords if they're healthy. Now, who knows, right? If it's not one of them, because I do think it goes through them, I would say like a Sierra Leone, because I think he's going to just stick around. I mean, I just think he's going to run in all the big ones, and because I just don't trust. I mean, I kind of want to think mind frame, but obviously he would need to represent himself well in the Belmont. You really don't know what he is yet. I do think he's got the ability to be, but I don't know.
I think now if the Bree says Seize the Gray, if Seize the Gray wins the Belmont, he certainly. Here's the deal: if we get 3 different Triple Crown race winners, it's really going to come down to Haskell, Travers, Breeders' Cup Classic. Like that'll decide it. If one of those 3 that won one of the Triple Crowns can win another one of those big races, they're probably going to win it. But yeah, if he can win the Belmont, he's number 1. If he doesn't, he still could end up number 1. But again, Haskell, Travers, Jim Dandy carries a little bit of weight. Pennsylvania Derby, a little bit of weight. And then obviously that big race, the Breeders' Cup Classic, if any 3-year-old could run really well there. So I think you kind of got to look at it as it's Sierra Leone's. And if he can win the Belmont and then parlay that into, say, a Travers win this year, that's probably going to be enough. So I think the Belmont's going to go a long ways in deciding it, I guess, is what I'm saying. Mystic Dan, if he wins the Belmont, in a year like this, if you got the Derby and the Belmont on your resume, you're probably the 3-year-old of the year. So this is a huge race for that to start to unfold.
I mean, honestly, who wins the Travers is going to be the favorite as we head into the Breeders' Cup, because it just kind of feels like it. Unless, like you say, Mystic Dan were to win the Belmont next week, and then you're like, okay, you won 2 of the legs. Like, it's going to take a pretty sizable, pretty big performance to kind of bounce him out. But yeah, it just kind of feels like we're going to go into the Breeders' Cup with saying like, hey, well, Sierra Leone won the Travers, and so and so won the Belmont, and you're gonna. I do feel like the Travers is going to be the leader in the clubhouse. Because it was that way a little bit last year too.
Yep, it was, and we kind of got our answer, that day when Arcangelo won. And again, it was a horse that won the Belmont and then got that Travers. And again, when it's a situation where you have 3 different Triple Crown race winners, all of a sudden, if you pair up the Travers and one of those other Triple Crown races, or if you could pair up the Haskell and the Travers, which is really tough to do, by the way. But if you could, then you're all of a sudden the leader.
I'll see your question, and I'll raise you an even more impossible question.
Okay.
Who at same time frame, same day, who are you saying this is your horse of the year? Guess we might find out. At least that road may start next week.
Mean, right now, Senior Buscador is your horse of the year if it ended today.
No, that's not. No,
I don't think that's going to hold.
I agree, but I understand what you're saying. But
I National Treasure, maybe. If he wins the Met Mile, that gives him the Met Mile and the Pegasus. I think he would be.
I'm trying.
Well, then obviously you'd have to go win another one or two, but I think he'd be in the driver's seat.
It's probably going to be, well, yeah, unless he does that. I mean, because the problem is like I don't think he can win the Classic. And so if you were to win the Met Mile, then you're going to have a situation where someone's going to win the Classic. I don't know. The division's so tough. I guess White Barrio, you could argue it goes through White Barrio, meaning if you were to run well in the Met Mile and then win the Classic and whatever between, like.
Well, I mean, we know Met Mile, Whitney, Pacific Classic, and Breeders' Cup Classic. That's kind of your road that's left, and there are other races that are going to factor in, but those are your big ones that are left, and. Your White Barrios and your National Treasures are the ones, and Senior Buscadors, they're going to be the ones that are kind of filling those races out.
I think you can make a really real case for Idiomatic to be horse of the year.
Yep.
She could sneak her way into the picture because of her division being so light and because of this division being so tough and unpredictable.
Yep.
But again, that obviously just as it goes, like they're probably not going to run her against the boys, and it also means that there's going to be almost zero room for error, meaning she's going to have to just run the table, the rest of the year or all year, I guess. Really. So, I don't know. I would like to see her do it. She also has proven to be somewhat unreliable at times, although she had a nice little run last year, so we'll see.
Hey Ho is saying next, an incredible marathoner, incredible. He's going to have to get out of that division.
Yeah.
And if he gets out of that division and he wins a race like the Whitney, then all of a sudden, or Pacific Classic or whatever.
We wanted them to do that last year and they wouldn't, They
wouldn't do it. So I think I agree. Well, you watch him visually, he's incredible, but you got to get out of the marathon division. And I don't know if they'll do that.
You could argue like a first mission. If you were to I don't know, rattle off the Whitney and the Classic, something like that. I mean, I think if you could any kind of combo there, that could be enough. But yeah, it's not
first mission.
Yeah, it's not. Both of those questions suck. So
yeah, yeah, right.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have. We will be we'll be live next week talking all things Belmont Stakes. We'll have our solid picks. We'll also have the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. We'll have all the picks for that in the betting Bible as well. Don't forget rehearsal dinners at 6:30 Thursday. All right. Hey, are there any single lady is the future wife have any? What's the bridesmaid situation look like, Kevin?
That is important. Yep.
You be honest, because she's probably at work right now, right? So you can be honest. What's the situation like?
Open bar, yes, to the ladies.
I can't, I can't show up and not have, no market, So
he says there's a market.
Open bar and well,
but can we trust him? I don't know.
He did not invite us to the table at Saratoga on Friday, so I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like we had to guilt him into it. I don't think he wants it, and I don't know that we can trust him. So he's gonna have to build that back. At least with me, he's gonna have to build back the trust. I don't know.
If he can provide me some single ladies, we could work out a deal.
Well, that could build the trust back.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's one way.
Are the girls coming on Friday, or is it only the guys?
I'm sure it's only the guys. He'll answer, but I'm sure it's only the guys.
There'll be plenty of other girls there. So, all right, that's gonna be a wrap. Oh, you would regret that decision, my friend.
Yes, you would.
All right, guys. I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Holtzman. We'll see y'all next week.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Blinkers Off. Join our horse racing community at racingdudes.com and follow us on Twitter at racing_dudes. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.